Greetings, Vault citizens. Johnny5 Alive here, your Vault Overseer, and welcome back to another episode of Vault-Tec Let's Build. And in today's video, we're going to be building the Wright Inn as part of our project Sanctuary Reborn. So stay tuned and let's check it out. Alright guys, let's just dive right on into it. Don't have anything prepared in terms of my script or anything, and it's going to be quite a long, hefty episode, but I think there's lots to come up with to talk about. So first of all, you'll see me placing down a bunch of stuff. So I have all these mods. I think one of them is business mod signs. I'll have the actual links to certain mods that I'm using down in the description below that are new to this episode. As in the last episode, I listed off everything that we needed to restore Sanctuary from its broken and rubbled state to a somewhat revitalized but still post-war state. We just cleaned up the actual buildings themselves, but kept the textures and all that. So the next part of the process is to use different mods to kind of amp them up one by one. So here we're working on the Wright Inn, which is our two-story house on the left there. It's the only two-story house in the whole build, and we're going to turn it into an inn. So in order to do that, I kind of need to know what's available to me. So there's all these kind of signs and business signs that come with this pack that I'm using. It's a mod, and I don't really know what's going to work here. So you'll see me going through the menus, just trying to figure out, you know, oh, this could work or this could not work. That's a maybe. We're just placing it down, and that way, if we don't have to go through the menu over and over and over again. And I highly recommend doing things this way for anything, whether you're playing Planet Coaster or Fallout. Just figuring out what you need, put it down on the ground, and then if you need to take a copy of it, you can duplicate it, you can, you know, just grab it and move it, and at least you have it there. Because if we load our game, or like the game does have a menu save, so if I were to exit this menu right at that no smoking sign and then come back in, I would still be at the no smoking sign unless I had to quit the game for any reason or do something else. However, we don't know what's to the left of that sign or what's to the right of that, so it's best to just go through everything one by one and figure out what it is we're going to need, place it all down. If we don't end up using it, that's fine, we'll delete it. And if we need 2 copies of something, we can always use a mod tool to duplicate it. So I pretty much placed down everything I needed. And it went really, really quickly because, yes, guys, we're still at 6 times speed. I put out this video, the first episode, and I asked you if it's too fast for you or whatnot. And I'm definitely going to be listening to the feedback, guys, and especially all the comments on my Fallout videos. I'll be reading every single comment. There's not a lot of views that come in on the Fallout videos. There's not a lot of comments. And for me, it's brand new. It kind of makes me feel like a new YouTube channel all over again, because the videos aren't crazy popular. And back in the day when I did Planet Coaster, I used to respond to every single comment, and I kind of feel like I can do that again with this Fallout series. So whatever you guys are thinking, leave your comments down below. I will definitely respond to all the comments and the feedback and stuff. However, I did ask you guys if you wanted me to slow down the game footage, and I'm not listening here, but you can see that it's not too bad, it's not too jarring, and that's because for this episode, I'm spending a lot more time going through the menus. So my camera's pretty still, and I flip through the menus, so all you're seeing is that menu going by really, really quickly. Now, when I was moving around the house for a bit there, placing all those AC units and vent units down, it was a little bit jarring. So I'm trying to figure out the balance between what's jarring and what's not boring, because if that first, I don't know, couple minutes of the video where I was just sorting through all the menus, putting down signs, if we were at real time, that would have taken an hour. I literally sat there for like an hour, or maybe less, like half an hour, and I put all those signs down one by one. And just having an episode in and of itself of me placing signs is not too fun. So we want to try and speed it up for the sake of, you know, we're not doing 10 episodes just to build one house. And, you know, I want to have it consumable. But I also don't want it to be jarring, and as I'm moving around the house right now, it does feel a little bit fast, but it's not the worst thing. And then as I'm building the small little details, it gets good again. So there are bits that are jarring, there's bits that are not, and I got to try and figure out the balance. I think I know what I'll do going forward, and it's going to have to be, I'm going to have to premeditate what I'm doing going into these episodes a bit more, because right now this was 6 or 7 hours to build this in, and I got it done. It was 11 different recordings at all different lengths and different things, and you know, I got it all done, and now I'm editing and recording over it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's hard to make the adjustment afterwards. Going forward, what I'll do is, if I go, okay, I got 4 hours of footage here, let's stop. I'll take some cinematic shots of what we have done up until this point, and then that way I have some footage. But right now with this build, I don't really have, I can only show you the end result, and we got it done. So I can't really go back to a save where it's all half done and chop this into 2 episodes, because at the end of the video, you guys definitely want to see what it is that we made. Even if it's just a glimpse, because we will do a spotlight where it's full real time, excuse me, and I'll give you guys a tour of everything we did, and it will be accentuated with NPCs. We're going to get some settlers, we're going to dress them up, we're going to give them jobs, and we're going to liven up this place. So it's not just a nice build, it's a nice build that's being lived in. So the spotlight, you know, all that stuff I did off camera, because it's just place this guy, assign him to that, and tinker with this, and I did a lot of fiddling. After this build and the next build you guys will see, that's when I sat down and said, I think it's good to figure out the AI mechanics before I move on further, in case there's any problems. And I did in fact run into some problems. So in the last episode, guys, I did say one of the best mods, one of the best mods is Settlements Expanded. It gives you a whole bunch of new doors, windows, building pieces, and it all goes into the vanilla menu. But I did run into an issue with the doors in that mod. The doors don't work properly with the NPCs for whatever reason. And the mod that I recommended it over, which is Homemaker, the Homemaker ones do work. So you can get mods like Renee's Close That Door, and it'll ensure that the NPCs close the door behind them, so not all your doors in the freaking settlement are left open. Though that mod only works with the Homemaker. So after I build all this off camera, I ended up having to go back and delete all the doors, but I found similar replacements with Homemaker. Some of the ones for this house building kit weren't perfect for Homemaker, especially this 2-story house. But the single-story houses, we seem to have found a good replacement for. The only bad part about that was, for this house, is some of the handles, when it slides open, kind of go into the wall a little bit. It's just a little bug, something, you know, not too big of a deal. But definitely need Homemaker just for the doors and the NPCs to interact with those doors. So I'm glad I kind of took a break afterwards and decided, let's figure out all the NPCs. And right now you guys will see me going through all these menus, and that's why I want to speed up the footage, because sometimes I spend 5-10 minutes just looking through the menus for something that I need, because I'm not acquainted with the new menus, with the mods. And as I'm getting acquainted and I'm getting familiar with it all, I start to memorize where things are. So these builds are naturally getting faster as we go, which means as they are getting faster, because I'm more efficient, we can start to slow that footage down a little bit, because I'm building a lot more in a lot less time. So for now, for the second episode, that's why I'm kind of ignoring the feedback, because I spent so much time in the menus in this episode that I really want to be able to speed through that as fast as possible. And as we're seeing here, I'm putting this counter together, trying to get 2 of them to fit where it's no clipping. And again, this is great why I decided to test the NPC navigation afterwards. The settler couldn't actually get behind the counter properly or take their breaks properly, and the counter was causing some issues. So I did reduce the size of the counter to 1, and I changed things a little bit. And I did a lot of little tiny modifications that you won't really notice the difference until the spotlight. Like what we place down, it'll look pretty much the exact same in the spotlight, with some minor tweaks here and there to compensate for the settler's navigation stuff. And I did learn a lot with like what mods are good and what are not for NPCs and settlers. So we'll probably have to do a separate video talking about like what I recommend and what I think is really good for settlers, and how they can kind of interact and make your settlement more lively. I definitely found one that I really enjoyed, and it's just marker mods. They add markers to the game that allow NPCs to interact with them. And I downloaded like 5 of these, and I decided to test them all. And you test things, then you figure out what you like and what you don't, and then you remove them, and you kind of you start from a good basis. And what I ended up getting going for this, I'll show it in the settlement spotlight. It's something pretty cool, and I guess that's something to talk about here. We'll do a let's build, and that's everything. You get to watch me do the process, and then we'll probably do a spotlight on it so you can see it in real time with the NPCs and stuff, and it'll be different than what the let's build is because it'll have more stuff to it, and it'll be real time. So I think that'll be the way to do it, is a let's build and then a spotlight, and try to bring something new to the table with the spotlight, and obviously have it at real time. So what you guys are seeing me here doing now is I was trying to make like a bulletin board, and I put down the wood panels. I couldn't really find anything that was cork, so I decided wood panels would be fine, and it does give it that rustic charm that we're looking for in Fallout. Like, oh, we don't have any cork boards, let's just put up some wood. The papers are all faded and stuff. It's kind of funny that they pinned up all these, papers, but it's about trying to sell the immersion of it's a, post-war inn. And they're gonna find old newspapers and old stories to pin up on the walls, just for the guests to have a read. And I think that's kind of adds to the fun factor to it. So I'm just running out, grabbing all the newspapers, different things that we placed down from the original, the first couple minutes of the video, and then we're putting them on the boards. And that's we're trying to figure out how the atmosphere of this inn is going to be when you enter. And there is a lot of tweaking, and like I said, going through the menus, figuring what's available to you. And I highly recommend, when you guys get into building, is download the mods that you think you're going to like, and just download them one at a time. Like, if you get Homemaker, go into Homemaker and see what you like about it, and learn the menus. I recommend the Settlements Expanded because it merges it with the vanilla. So if you need chairs, you go to one place. You don't have to go to 2 different menus and look at the 2 different types of chairs. So I still recommend the Settlements Expanded mod. I'll have a link down below for that. But Homemaker does have its benefits. If there's something you're looking for, or I ended up downloading it, and I think in a later episode I ended up using it for like a couple things, and I'm like, I need this one thing, but I don't know if I have it. So what you end up doing is you just look through all your menus, and then if you can't find it, that's when I go to Homemaker, and I go, do they have something similar in Homemaker? And if maybe I'll find something. But a lot of the time is spent going through your menus and trying to figure out what it is that you have available. And that's what you saw me. I found a map in there, and I was like, oh, this will be perfect. Because it's an inn, people are coming by, they're stopping by on their way to said destination, and they're just staying here for a while. So they want to have a map to look at. And that map is part of one of the markers mods that I got. And I'll put a link down for that as well. It basically, one of the markers mods adds all these different interactable objects that the settlers will use on their free time. Some of them are assignable, and those are the ones you really want. And one of the mods I found was really good for that, where you can assign someone to it and they'll stay there and use that until they either have to sleep or they want to take a break. And then I found another mod where it gives your settlers schedules, and I really recommend this one, because you can, one of the things that was bugging me is the person that's working the counter here, they would walk away, take breaks, they would go sleep, and when I go to the inn, I want someone there at all times, always waiting to greet me. So with the schedules mod, you can make one custom schedule, which is the efficient schedule, and the settings I gave it were 24/7. You never take breaks, you never sleep. So assigning that to my in worker here was great because that assures me that every time we come in here, there's always going to be someone standing there. And it can be good for all various things if you want to do that. But I do like the schedules and the kind of naturalness of people roaming around. Here's a fun little thing I'm doing back here is I decided, this inn makes a lot of money, so where are they storing it? Behind the counter in the back there. No one's going to go back there, but I was trying to go through OCD Decorator to see, do they have any caps? Do they have any cash? And let's fill this thing up and make it, I'm trying to tell a story here, and that's what I love about OCD Decorator is the storytelling. You can really put a lot of things down in a scene to make it tell a story, and that's a lot of fun. Anyways, what was I just saying about the settler schedules? Having one work 24/7 it's kind of immersion breaking, but you'll find with some of the markers, the jobs, and the things that you can assign people to, it just tends to get buggy. Even with mods that try to fix the bugginess, I had to put blinds on there so that people couldn't see the cash. Well, let's go rob this place. So I figured I better cover that up. And notice from the front you can see in all the cash. So anyways, yeah, the schedules, they can get buggy at times, where especially the ones that come with your settlement. So there's like the 5 people that you save, Preston Garvey, Marcy Long, and a few others. When you give them jobs, they tend to not listen to you. The other settlers seem pretty good with it, but even then they want to go take lunch breaks, they want to sleep, and once they finish their sleep schedule, maybe the nav meshes on the buildings aren't perfect and they have a hard time navigating back to their job, and they'll just kind of stand around a bush or something, or they'll just stand around an area and they won't get back to work at times, and it can be rather frustrating. The way you fix that is you just wait an hour, go sit at a chair, wait. It'll kind of fast travel all the NPCs to where they belong, and it'll fix itself. So anytime you kind of teleport into town or out of town, or you wait or you sleep in town, you're going to have everybody reset and kind of fixed. But if you were to enter town at like 10 a.m. when a settler just wakes up from their bed, or 9 a.m. I think is when they wake up, they take a break from 9 to 10 before they get started on work. So if you walked into town at 10 a.m. or 9:30 a.m., this person that's supposed to be working the counter might be just wandering around, and when it's time to go do their job, they might not be able to navigate their way back in properly for whatever reason. For the most part, it can be okay. What you see me doing here is using the keys that I found in OCD Decorator. I thought this was perfect. I wanted some sort of a cork board, and I found that panel that I could put back there where all the keys get hung up, and I wanted that realism of this is an inn. And I do have a little trick. I'm going to have to make a tips and tricks video, but you can copy the rotation. See that? It just plopped into place. You can copy the coordinates of the rotation, the position, and all that of an item, and then you can paste it onto another item. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the keys where I want them, and then so I don't have to rotate them and do all this stuff, I just push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it puts all that information into the object. Excuse me. And yeah, so I'm just putting the board to kind of look like you come in, you get a room, she gives you your key, there should be a bunch of keys behind her on a board. I thought that was a nice little touch, and again, OCD Decorator is amazing for telling stories, and you can see that here as we were telling a story of this is a real inn, it's busy. I put the trading cap bobblehead on the counter. It's a barter bobblehead, just something fun. We got a bell to ring, a phone, some newspapers, cash register, all that stuff. It makes it sell the liveliness of somebody's working here, and they have all the little knickknacks and stuff to decorate it and make it feel good. Our waiting area has magazines and a chill room, and from here we want to go decorate our rooms. Now, I didn't really know what I was going to do for this, but I definitely just want them to feel like regular rooms, and I ended up spicing this up a lot. You'll see most of it in this episode, But then I went in and further afterwards and I spiced it up, which you will see in the spotlight. And that comes with the, again, the scheduling. So I built a certain room with a certain theme. I want to add characters to that room and schedules to that room so certain themed characters use it. And as I'm doing that, I come up with like little things that I'm like, oh, well, OCD Decorator could sell that theme in that story a little bit more. So what this is interesting, what you're seeing here is a part of the home builder pack is those kind of invisible outlined floating characters that I was placing down. That mod adds in custom kind of like navigation markers that allow 2 people to sleep on a double bed. You can also take these, they're like basically pillows that come with like an AI navigation point, and you can snap them to furniture. So it's actually really useful. As you can see, I put one on the left and one on the right of a double bed. Normally the beds in Fallout, only one person can sleep on them, whereas in this you can have 2 people sleep on them, which is really great because you can make use of a double bed, or you can have, like, if you have a couple that are paired up, like maybe Preston and his girlfriend or something, you want them to sleep in the same room, well, there you go. It's pretty cool. And then you can also take these, and there's like beds for pillows that are just floating, and they're for the floor or furniture, and you can put them on couches, you can put them on whatever you want, and you can assign a settler to it, and they'll know to go sleep on the furniture, on the couch, or whatever you end up putting that on. And I've been testing it. It seems to be pretty good. I've had some weird bugs, like odd one-off bugs, where I assigned someone to a bed upstairs, and then next thing you know, I found them sleeping on a bed downstairs. And I think that was attributed to like another settler coming along and just like screwing it up. Like, I don't know, maybe they just decided to go sleep in someone's bed randomly, and it kind of messed things up. So I've turned off the settler beacon, where it allows people to just come in and start doing stuff. They just wander into your settlement. And now I'm using the console command. Whenever I need another settler, I use a console command to spawn one in. I assign them to Sanctuary. I dress them up the way I want them, give them the jobs I want them to have. And as long as everyone is pre-assigned to a bed and a job, no one's going to start wandering around and messing with stuff. Normally it shouldn't. I might have been running into kind of a one-off strange bug, but I do think everything is working as intended now. So here we are, we're decorating my bathroom, and I ended up cutting the recording to do this because I was looking for the toilet and I didn't realize it was under furniture miscellaneous. I was looking under chairs for some reason and I couldn't find a toilet. So there is a toilet. It's not a clean toilet, but there is one, and I thought, oh, let's go look for a mod, and I found this mod called CCW Redux or something, but it adds all this bathroom stuff. It even adds kitchen stuff, it sinks, anything you can think of. And this one also has navigation markers linked to them. The NPCs will use this stuff, and I've walked in here randomly, and like Sturgis was taking a dump. He was just pooping in there, and it makes the sound effects. He flushes the toilet and everything. They'll actually get undressed and shower and stuff. But I have like a no nudity patch, so they're like showering in their underwear. It's a little bit funny, but they strip down, they get in there, they shower, they take baths, and yeah. So these pieces that I'm putting down, sinks, toilets, and stuff. You can't really assign someone to them, but they are like lounge items. So if somebody's on a break or just chilling out, or they have a day off, they will randomly wander around and use these things at their will. So it does add a little bit of immersion to it, where you'll just find someone randomly taking a shower, or washing the dishes in the kitchen, all sorts of things. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And with the combination of different settler marker mods that I have, you can add in smoking areas, leisure areas, dancing areas. I got a mod to add in a custom singer, and she sings songs, all sorts of really, really fun stuff. So here I am looking through. I have another mod that's a kitchen pack, and it allows you to build your own custom kitchens. So I'm thinking, do I build a kitchen up here? And I was looking through all the items. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with this upper area. Now, it is an inn, but I didn't want to have it like a bed and breakfast, But then I thought, you know, like they should have something, like at least a coffee station, because if you wake up in the morning at an inn, you want to be able to go make yourself a coffee, lounge around a little bit. So I wanted at least the basics. But in terms of a restaurant, I wanted to save that for the future Let's Builds. I want to actually make a restaurant. So I want people to go to the restaurant to use for eating purposes. Even if you were to stay at the inn, you should go across the street to the restaurant in the morning. And but you should at least be able to get your coffee here and relax a little bit. So I wanted a little bit of something here, and some cool loungewear. I found that in the Raiders pack. So that's part of Nuka-Cola, I guess. So I'm looking through trying to find like a coffee machine, and I do end up finding like an espresso maker. Again, it's really tough to find everything when you're trying to get familiar, and I'm trying to go. So I want to make stuff, and I'm already recording, and I don't have the leisure of like learning everything and then recording. Because with anything in life, your memorization builds with practice. So, you know, I did already look through the menus a little bit and try to get an idea of where things were and what had what, but you forget. And until you get used to placing things down, you build up your memory, and then you start to memorize where everything is. So I definitely am getting the hang of things now, where this build, I think it took me like, I want to say 6 hours of recording here or something like that, and then all in all, it was probably 8 hours with like, oh, let's log out, let's get this mod, let's tinker with that. And you can see I'm having little problems, like I nudged my house by accident while I was trying to nudge that poster. And I'll stop the recording at times to like tinker with things and figure things out. And I definitely learned some pro tips for the movement tools, the place anywhere tools, and I'm gonna have to make a guide, because boy oh boy did I find some helpful stuff. Like if I accidentally nudged the house when I was trying to nudge a poster, it messes everything up. Well, you can just hit backspace and undo, and I didn't realize that was a thing. And as I'm learning these things, it's definitely speeding up my process. So the next build, we're building, I'd probably say just as much, maybe even more, and we do it like twice as fast, just because I know where to find things. I know how to layer things a little bit better as well. Like, okay, let's build all the stuff, let's get all the furniture in, let's decorate this, and kind of do things in layers. Like if I'm placing beds, I should go place them in all the rooms and then kind of move from there. And if I'm placing shelves, but also I'm learning the menus, so you know I can, if there's something I don't want to touch right now, I could go do it later, and I know exactly where to find it. And right here, you're seeing me looking through these menus back and forth. I was trying to find that, and later on, I end up looking for that again, and I end up like stopping the recording because I couldn't find it, and I was like, it's going to take me an hour to find it. And I ended up finding it in the modular kitchen pack, of all things. And later on, when I went to find another one, I couldn't find it. And it's about memorizing again, guys. It's like trying to memorize where all your little things are. And now you can find a broom, a bucket, and all that different stuff in different menus. But that one was like clustered together perfectly. And there are some really good mods for that, such as Do It Yourself. And you can see me here. I'm filling up this shelf with all sorts of stuff, and really quickly, without OCD Decorator. OCD Decorator has each one of those individual things, whereas Do It Yourself has clumps of things. And I really like the way that works, because if you're trying to like build a garage and you want to fill it up with like parts, you just go into like the parts area and you get all sorts of junk and mechanical stuff, and it's really, really handy. I'm definitely gonna have to make a video going over my mods and my kind of do-it-yourself tips and tricks, because there's a few things that I'm learning here where just tools of how to navigate and control things, and have things work with you, not against you. And then from there, it's coupled with the mods, because you know you get all the tools right, but then certain mods are tools. Like Do It Yourself is way better than placing everything one by one. Sometimes I want to place things one by one. Like let's just say I do a chem lab or a drug room, and we fill it up with drugs using Do It Yourself, and it takes couple minutes, because we put the shelves down, we plop, 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 we clutter them with these kind of clumps of static loot, and then we kind of want some individual things lying around. Maybe some fell off the shelf, maybe there's a thing of jet next to the bed. The little tiny things that you want to decorate with and tell a story with after come from OCD Decorator. But if you did everything with OCD Decorator, it would take 10 times longer. So in that sense, it is a tool. And here I'm looking through all the Nuka-Cola stuff, because I ended up, in between one of the recordings, I got a mod that unlocks all the Nuka-Cola. When you play Nuka World, you get a bunch of stuff for your settlements. And I haven't played it on this profile. This is a new profile, a new character, so I would have to go to Nuka-Cola World and beat it in order to get access to all this stuff. So I got a mod in between recordings, and I wanted to check out the Nuka World's things, and as I'm looking through them, I thought, alright, well, why don't we make one of the master suites kind of like a Nuka themed suite? Not go overboard, because I do have an idea for a future Let's Build. The red rocket across the street, I thought it would be cool to make a Nuka rocket, and we turn that place into everything Nuka-Cola, and it's a Nuka-Cola like gas station pit stop. The next room I'm building up here, I wanted to have it themed around sexy times. Pin-up girls. It's a love room. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of signs and things we have here. So I'm looking through everything again, because I do have another mod called like lore-friendly posters, and that's different than the business ones, and they give you a lot more signs. So I'm trying to find all the pinup girls so we can put them on the wall, Valentine's things, and make it very apparent that this is the love room, the love shack. And what I end up doing with this room to tell more of a story further on with the NPCs and placement markers, it ends up being pretty cool. You guys will have to wait for the spotlight to see what I do there. And I do change up a couple other rooms in the inn here that you don't end up seeing me build in this episode. But I'm having a lot of fun with this process, like figuring out where the things are, and you get better at this and you get more ideas, and as you go along. And I think I've gotten a good system down now. I've built this inn, and then as I've added in the NPCs and all that and tested things, and that's how I recommend doing things, guys. Don't just build up your entire fort. Build your fort and test things, because things will be bound to be buggy. Maybe you built like a wall with a staircase nearby, and certain characters aren't going up the stairs. It's because maybe the wall's too close to the stairs. And now if you fully decorated everything, ripping things apart is a real pain in the butt. So I'm glad I tested things afterwards. I didn't have to change too much other than the doors, a couple like locators. I deleted a few like beds and chairs and replaced them with chairs and beds from other mods. These beds are pretty good, the double beds with the things. I think it was the other build that I did where I replaced a few with bunks for prison cells and stuff, but we'll save that conversation for the next one. But I did do another build after this at the time of this recording, guys. I have two builds. We're looking at the Wright's Inn, and the next one, I talked about it in the first episode. I said maybe we'll do the inn or a Minutemen security place. So I was already hinting at what I was going to be doing. So it's no surprise there. But the one that you just saw there, the blue house across the street, that becomes the Minutemen security. And I do dress that up, and then from there I wanted to make sure everything worked. So I literally could have built another two buildings, and you can see the texture on that mannequin's all messed up. It's because I have a body mod, and it redoes the bodies in my game, and I also have a body gen, and that was a pain in the butt to figure out. I should probably do a tutorial on body gen, because I went to like 10 different sources and nobody really knows how to use it properly, but I did some pretty remarkable stuff, and even had to learn a little bit of programming to make it work. But I got it to work, and every single body and person in my game is randomly generated, but not true random, because if that would happen, you would have like inverted faces, and because there's negative and positive sliders to every piece of body in the game. and I wanted it to be subtle. So I built something like 14 preset bodies, and then I generated like a 10% randomness in between, and everybody in my game looks different. It's quite cool, and I coupled that with a few other mods. I quite like it. So what was my point behind that? The the house spinning there, don't alt-tab when you're in settlement mode. It'll just grab something and start spinning it, and you'll have to reload your game. So, a little tip there. The mannequin didn't look proper because it's a CBB mod that I have, which is a body mod, and it doesn't know how to scale the texture properly to the body. So I had to get a CBB mannequin and retexture, and now the mannequin kind of matches my base character shape. Now obviously body gen is not going to work on mannequins, but it gives you a general body, and I wanted a mannequin in there because it's the love room. So I figured, why not have like a dress on a mannequin readily available for whoever's using that room. And then we take it a step further. Here's where I couldn't find the freaking looking everywhere for the freaking bin and mop and all that stuff, the little combo. And this is why I really wanted to do things at 6 times speed, guys, because imagine how slow this would be at like 2 times speed. This little process here, and I think I ended up cutting the recording so I could look further, and then I couldn't find it. So I just put something else in there and said, screw it, I'll find it later. And when I was looking through to build a kitchen or something later on, that's when I find it, you know? So you end up memorizing where these things are and where they're not. And it can be very frustrating and overwhelming at first. And that's why I highly recommend don't throw in like 30 settlement mods all at once. Do them one at a time, test them out, look at them, and see if you like them. Because like something like Homemaker, for example, I didn't even install it to begin with because I didn't like a bunch of the junk it came with, and I didn't like how the menu was separate. And it wasn't to my likings in terms of efficiency and style. And I found something else that I liked and preferred more that did something the same. But I then later on did install Homemaker because I wanted the doors to work properly. So, but now at least I know that when I'm putting doors in, I go to Homemaker, and I pretty much don't go to it for anything else unless maybe I can't find what I'm looking for, and I go, maybe it's in Homemaker. But generally, I'm learning all my menus, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm, familiar with, and now when I need something else, like those bathrooms downstairs, I wanted toilets, I got the CCW Redux, and it's like a new menu found under furniture, I think. And it's like now I'm getting used to using that, and I know where to find it. But if I had that from the beginning, like I would be like, where are the toilets? They're in 5 different menus. I can find them in Home Builder, Homemaker, so vanilla. I can find some in CCW. Maybe I wouldn't even have thought to look for CCW, but it's because I downloaded it when I needed to, and I tested it when it was necessary. And now I remember to go use CCW Redux when I need bathrooms. But there is a time where you don't want to use it. I built a jail cell, which you guys will see in my next Let's Build, and I put down the Redux toilets in the jail cell, and I had characters just wandering into the jail cells and using the toilets. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you're not supposed to let the prisoners out, because I have the intention that I want to have prisoners in those prison cells. And it's not good when people are just opening the doors, walking in there and peeing. It's terrible. So I don't want interactive toilets in the particular jail cells. So that's when I use the ones that are vanilla with the game, because those ones people don't use. And that seemed to have fixed my problem. So you'll learn things like situational, okay? These doors are better to use in these situations, or maybe you don't want characters going through doors. You have like a restricted access room. Well, that's when you want to use like a specific door from a different mod that characters have a hard time interacting with. So it can seem overwhelming and complicated, guys, but I assure you it's not. Like, it does take a little bit of fiddling and getting used to, and I have to say that this last week I've been playing Fallout probably for like a week or two, and I feel like I've done nothing because I downloaded like 120 mods. It was testing this, like figuring out that. Then it leads you down a rabbit hole of now I want to do body gen and figure that out. And it's totally not necessary for anything that I'm doing in these videos. But when if and when I decide I want to just like play Fallout on my free time, I kind of wanted that stuff in my game. I've already played this game for so long that I want something more interesting. So having more interesting NPCs across the entire world makes it feel like a different game. So yeah, I downloaded all these mods, testing them. Some don't work, some break, and and you're testing them. I probably went overboard. And then there's what am I going to need to build settlements? Let's test those. And the list goes on and on and on. So you spend all this time learning how to use the mods, the hotkeys, and where to find them, and if they're working. And now that we're actually building in the settlements, I built this whole inn, and then you'll see in the next episode I build the security, the Minutemen office, and then between those two after those two episodes, I spent as of the time of this recording, I've spent the last 2 days just freaking playing with Settler AI. Like downloading different mods, trying them out, seeing what I like, what I don't like, uninstalling them, and trying to clean. If there's a mod that I don't like, I get rid of it, and I want to make sure it's properly installed, properly uninstalled, and working into my likings. And I want to browse them, what is available. So I kind of ballpark it. I go to the mod page, and I download, 10 or 20 things that I like relative to NPC settler navigation and jobs and stuff like that, and then I try them all out. So I finish these 2 builds, and I want them to become alive at some point, and it's much better to do that now than later when we've built everything and we go, oh, I gotta redo the doors on every house in this entire settlement. So glad I ran into that issue now than later. So you kind of want to build a little bit, test a little bit, build a little bit, test a little bit, and once you've kind of ironed that out, from here on out, it's just going to be build, set the AI up. Build, set the AI up. There shouldn't be a lot of, oh, I'm having this issue, because I know what issues to expect. Certain buildings and certain pieces interact with characters certain ways, and certain jobs or schedules that you assign people can have issues. Well, I've spent the last 2 days figuring out what those all are. So in the case where I want a person at a counter, I have 2 options. I can set them on a job and give them a day shift letter, and they'll work that counter during the day. I can give them a bed to sleep in, so when at nighttime they'll go sleep in that bed, and they'll just basically go between working the counter and sleeping. And you're going to need someone to do the night shift. So that's what I really liked about that one mod that I got, is it allows me to schedule shifts. However, there may come times where you find someone that's not at the counter because they were taking a break. And so in those cases where you're like, I want someone at this counter all the time, even if it's immersion breaking to the point where they don't ever sleep and they're always there. I don't care. I want them here, and I'm going to force them to be there. I found this mat that essentially makes them a guard or a bartender or a merchant. It forces them to stand there as their job. You can give them a schedule saying you have to work here 24/7, and it seems to be bulletproof. They don't ever leave it. There is the exception of like Preston Garvey. He just does whatever the hell he wants, it seems. I've assigned him to a post or a job. I want him to work the radio to recruit more settlers to this settlement. That should be his job. He's the minute man. He's the head dude. He should be on the radio looking for people. And he just wanders off. He says, screw it. But then later on, I figure out that that radio just seems to be that way. I assign someone else to it, and they wander off once in a while. So it just seems to be one of these things where they choose to do it or they not. I could probably find a different radio from one of the other mods or a mat that forces them to do so. But I decided, screw it. You know what? We'll have someone that sometimes works the radio. I put Preston out front as a guard. And yeah, when you assign jobs to people who are named NPCs, they tend to not listen to you some of the time. They'll just kind of F off and do whatever they want for a bit. So putting Preston out front of the Minutemen headquarters as a guard is fine, because sometimes he'll just wander off, and that's cool. Like, and then once in a while you'll see him out front of the Minutemen, like greeting people, and I like that randomness. So there are certain things that I'm learning and I know going into our future builds. So it's going to go a lot faster now, thankfully, and I've figured out everything I need to. So I'm ready to show you guys the next 2 settlement spotlights, where we feature the inn, and I'll probably have to do that episode next because that would make the most sense. And then we'll do the let's build for the next building, and then we'll do the spotlight for that. From there, I'm ready to actually start building another building, and I think setting up the AI, the nav meshes, all the different marker points, it should go quite quickly. So I'm hoping to just build episode, and feature them. And I'm hoping this is going to be a much smoother process. And my building skills have definitely gone up. Like here, doing this garden, this was a lot of fun. Like, you guys might say, like, green garden, it's beautiful, it's blah blah blah, it's immersion breaking. Well, I kind of have an argument that it's been 250 years since the war, since the nukes dropped. This place was not hit very hard with like radiation and destruction. So why can't they start replanting things and regrowing things? It's not like this dirt is pure radiation. It's not the worst place in the wasteland. So I thought, you know what, we can grow some plants, and maybe, you know, while we just moved to this settlement, for all we know, we could take ourselves out of the immersion for a second and say, you know, Preston Garvey and his team showed up here years ago and planted this stuff, or maybe someone else did and we took over. Doesn't really matter, but trees can grow and will grow, and they've had 250 years to do so. So we're growing back some trees, and I think that's fine. It's not too immersion breaking, and we're not doing it everywhere. We have some dead grass and some dry areas, but we have some places where the settlers have gone in and planted things again, and that this inn, I want it to have some vibrance. You know, we don't want everything to be dead, and we need to build a composition, and I think that's important for every single one of our builds, or anything that you're building in anything, guys, even Planet Coasters. Always think about your composition. So when you're looking at this inn from a distance, it's a tall building. We need to match the tallness of that building with other shapes around it. The only thing that we can get as tall enough is going to be trees, or giant windmills, or giant machinery, or big forts, and I don't want to do any of that other than the trees. So we need some tall, gnarly branches, we need some green, we need some tall hedges, some big fences. And when we couple that up and around and behind this inn, we're going to get a really nice composition. I'm not sure how I edited this video, but I might have given you guys a sneak peek of the before and after in the very beginning of this video. I'll have to see what I do in post, but I needed something for the introduction. So yeah, you'll see that the composition, you'll definitely see in a minute, or in about 10 minutes, when I show off the final build, that these trees that I'm adding in, the hedges, the fences out front, they really add to that composition. And I keep backing out to look at it here. Having that big sign there adds directional forces, leading your eyes, leading into the branches, which are pointing at the building. And then you have the arches going around the welcome sign, the hedges leading up to that welcome sign. It all pushes your eyes into the doorway into the inn, and that's what we want. And we also want to accentuate the top, because this could just look like a tall, pretty house that's been grown over, and the grown overness gives you that post-apocalyptic feel, kind of like The Last of Us, where that's not a nuclear war, but it's like an abandoned post-apocalyptic. And I want that to feel kind of a mixture. We've regrown, but it's a little bit of a mixture. So we want that overgrown feel, but we want that we patch things up ourselves feel. So while we've restored and fixed the houses, we're not manufacturing brand new shiny tiles. We're just fixing up what we have and what we can. So that's why the textures are all ruddy and cruddy. And maybe what these Wastelanders did for this Wright's Inn sign, they went out into the wasteland and found a Wright's Inn. They ripped off the sign and brought it here. And then they nailed it all up and boarded it to the top. So while it is a house, we wanted to make it look and feel like an inn. And in order to do that, we have to shamble it together. So that's the whole purpose behind this. And we also want that to add to the composition. If it's just a big box house, it doesn't look and feel like an inn. By putting the sign on the top with a light shining on it, it's really going to sell that composition. And as you can see a little bit there, as I'm backing up and looking at it, it does add to the composition overall. And I do want to tweak it and refine it. And then we have that sign on the side, so when you're coming over the bridge and you can't quite see the Wright's Inn yellow sign, you have something saying like rooms. It says rooms for rent. And that same sign that's on the side we used on the inside, so when you go up to the counter you see that as well. We want some cohesion between our advertising. And just because it's post-apocalyptic doesn't mean we can't have advertising and jobs and all sorts of different things. These Wastelanders want to live and rebuild the wasteland as the world before. Everybody wants things to get back to the way they were. Now obviously it's going to take a very long time, and we can still makeshift things back to the way they were, and that's the whole idea behind this entire build. Sanctuary Reborn is we're trying to makeshift everything to a better tomorrow, a new world, but without trying to completely break the immersion factor. We don't really want anything that's brand new. Now I do end up giving people like new clean clothing, but I figured, why can't they wash clothing? I mean, just because the nukes went off, that doesn't mean there's some place that has clothing stored away in a basement in a clothing store cellar that's just dusty and it could just be washed. So there's going to be some things that I'm like, okay, that seems like we can do new. We don't want everyone running around in, shabby clothing. And I do have all these nice clothing mods and different things, so I want to make use of it as much as possible. So we're doing our best. Where we can make things new, we do. And some of this stuff, it all depends on what we have available. So these picket fences here are pretty new. They're pretty clean. They're pretty nice looking. But there's probably someone out there that knows how to do masonry and bricklaying and things of those natures. There's handy people out there that know how to use machines, and those machines still exist in the wasteland. We have ways to power them, so why not? So we had a metal worker come in and make some metal fences. They ran some old machines, got things going again. But for the most part, it's surrounded with... It's the atmosphere that we're trying to capture here. And we don't need to have perfect texture packs for everything. So I'm playing around with some of the trees. There are some trees that come with the Vault DLC. There's also some that come with Homemaker, Home Builder, as well as Settlements Expanded. Most of them are generally the same, and what I ended up figuring out later on is I've been using the scale tool on certain things. I didn't even think to scale the trees, and like certain tools that you can use with the Place Anywhere, kind of like a light bulb goes off later on that, oh yeah, I could scale a Nuka-Cola bottle up to be gigantic, or I can scale a tree down so it's not so big. There's all sorts of things that you can do with that scale tool that wasn't quite, I didn't have it at the forefront of my mind. And same with Planet Coaster, you can't really scale things. So sometimes you just forget about certain tools until later on. So I'm adding in these things to my skill set throughout each of the Let's Build. So what if I scale this bush or this thing? It looks really good here, and I remember that going forward. And so as we go through, things will present themselves like we'll use existing things for new challenges, and we'll use new challenge. We'll use previous techniques to overcome new challenges. And I know we're going to come into some problems when we start doing the armory and stuff, because I'm going to be playing with junk. I'm going to try and put body armor on a house. And I kind of have an idea, but I have no idea how it's going to turn out. It's what you imagine in your mind is never what you end up with, but you do come up with something similar. This is kind of what I wanted the inn to look like, but it actually turned out better than what I imagined. I wanted this overgrown feel. I saw these plants as a part of the... I have no idea why it's part of the Marcus mod, which is giving people jobs. One of the things that you can assign them to is pools, and this person added in like swimming capabilities for your settlers. And in there, he randomly put bushes and vines, and I was like, I remembered where those vines were because I had an idea that I'm going to use them. And as I've placed them down here, they came out looking really, really good on this inn. Gave it that overgrown look that we're looking for. It's been there for a while. The settlers built it up. They planted trees. Everything grew. It's flourishing, and now it's a well-known inn. And I think it looked really great. Here you'll see me looking through the menu because I see the plant is sticking through the wall there. And I was trying to find a potted plant to kind of put next to it to kind of cover it up and just have something on the ledge. I don't think I ended up finding it. I probably just like quit out the episode, and it still hasn't been fixed to this day. But the picket fences give you potted plants, and then I also got a mod later on called Plant Me, and that's pretty good. You can add some plants in too, but not a lot of variety, just some ferns and different things. And as I was going through that, I discovered these rocks, and I decided, you know what, this is going to really add to that composition as you're on a ground level composition. Walking through here on foot, looking around, you're going to really feel like this place has been here for a while if we add some rocks and stuff. So, and it just breaks everything up a little bit. So it looks really good with these rocks. So I had a fun time placing these, and definitely using these in other places now. However, moving forward into other builds. Oh, here we go. We got the real-time shots here. So closing up at the end of the video here, guys. But here's some glamour shots. But I was saying real quickly before I go is the other builds that we're going to be doing. We're not going to be putting rocks everywhere, but we're going to be putting junk and clutter, and that's something I haven't really played around with a lot. So it'll be interesting how the town changes in certain areas, and maybe instead of hedge fences we use junk fences with cars piled up, and we definitely want a different feel for each of the areas. But the first area that we're building here, I want it to be glamorous and welcoming. And that inn that we've created here does give you that welcoming, warm feel. The lights, the plants, it really does have a welcoming feel. What we build next to it will also be welcoming, and also it's reassuring that this is a safe place, as it's a security build. And then as we go in deeper, we're going to get into the crazy ideas and junkify things a bit, and keep that immersion level. So there you go, guys. We'll have a spotlight where I cover all this with the NPCs all having jobs and interacting with this build, and I'll give you guys a closer look, and we'll talk about all the different things there. Let me know what you guys think of the video, if the 6x speed is still bothering you, but it was a long episode and I needed it to be that fast in order to get through it. So there you go, guys. If you enjoyed, please be sure to smash that like button. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next Let's Build. Bye now.